Hi everyone, Steve here from RSM and welcome to the latest episode of our Coffee Conversation series. Today I'm joined by Mel Pikos. Mel is the Managing Director of Tactic Group, and you're going to hear all about Tactic and what they do very, very shortly. But Mel, great to have you here.
Thanks, Steve. Thanks for having me.
An absolute pleasure. Now, this is all about a conversation over a coffee, as you know, so I have to ask you, what's your coffee of choice? What have we got in front of us here?
I love a good iced long black.
Very nice.
It's obviously gets pretty hot in Queensland. Obviously a bit cool at the moment, but still the favourite is the ice long black. Trying to lose a few kgs.
Yeah, aren't we all? Me as well. Having said that, I kind of stick with the oat latte as kind of my coffee of choice.
That's probably my weekend choice. The oat latte,
nice.
Yeah.
Nice. And I'll have the ice long black on occasion, but normally, as you say, in summer and on a weekend. So enough with the coffees, but this is all about having a little bit of a chat and our viewers getting to know you a little bit and about the business. So just in the interest of that, maybe kicking off, if you could tell us a little bit about yourself, about your journey and what's brought you here.
Yeah, so I grew up in a property family. My dad's a property developer. I said to him from a very early age, I want to be an actor. He said, don't be silly, you're getting into property. So went and studied property valuation at university. At that point in time, I wanted to be a property developer. Was fortunate enough to get a job within the commercial real estate industry whilst I was still studying. And that ultimately led to me staying in the commercial real estate world. After spending about 8 years with CBRE as a director within their office services team, myself and two colleagues branched out and we started Tactic in March 2020.
Great timing.
Yeah, we didn't know it at the time, but we resigned in November 2019. I had to do 3 months of gardening leave, and then we were allowed to start in March 2020, just as COVID lockdowns were hitting.
Awesome.
So as everyone was told, not sure if you got a job, go home. We were just starting a business specialising in office leasing. So timed it perfectly.
Perfect.
It wasn't all bad news for us, though. It allowed us to see what we could do differently in the market, and because a lot of people needed help at the time, we actually had a pretty good year, and subsequently that allowed us to sort of expand our thinking and therefore do a multiple different business lines, which I guess led to the genesis of what Tactic is today.
Yeah, which is fascinating, and that's that what you created with Tactic, I think, is a fascinating concept, as you know. And in fact, we've just had a quick walk through our new fit out. We moved in here on the 20th of January, loving our new home, and of course we went through a process of engaging our tenant rep, through to the builder and who handed over the keys at the end of the process, and understand that the Tactic proposition is kind of taking that concept and flipping it on its head a little bit. Maybe if you could tell us a little bit about Tactic, about your journey in sort of building that business, what you do, differentiators in the market, those sorts of things.
Definitely, Steve. So what you've described, I guess in the traditional process, I saw a lot of inefficiencies, a lot of people getting passed around from hand to hand, and then of course the original vision that was set out by the person looking for the office space isn't always necessarily carried through. I saw a bit of a gap in the market to offer advice that was looking at the holistic scenario of how to increase the productivity of the workforce, but also trying to strategically minimise costs where we can, so that we're delivering it in the most efficient way possible. So what Tactic looks like now is 5 distinct business lines. We've got workplace strategy, so we look at some ways to try and increase the productivity of the workforce by utilising your office space. We've got leasing advisory, so going out there, sourcing the space, negotiating the deal, which is what I've been doing for my whole career. Then we've added workplace design, so going in, of course, designing all the interiors. Importantly, we're designing it to a budget, so if someone says, look, I want the Toyota of office fit-outs, we'll go and deliver that. If someone wants the Mercedes, we'll go deliver that. If someone wants a Rolls Royce, then we'll price it accordingly to reflect that level of finish. We've also got a furniture advisory team. So we were lucky to secure a contract with a company called Hayworth. They're the world's largest business-to-business furniture manufacturer. They have got 2,300 global clients that they supply furniture to. So all of the office furniture for Google is supplied by Hayworth. Google are known as one of the best office environments in the world, and it's mandated that wherever you sit in the world, you sit on a Hayworth chair. So we're the exclusive supplier for that. But other contracts include Microsoft, Shell, Boeing, Australian companies like NAB, Westpac, Macquarie Bank, Rio Tinto, BHP. So we supply all of their office furniture. And then, of course, we've got fit-out services as well. So we will go and act as the principal contractor, procure everything that is needed for the office space, and then, of course, go and build it for our clients. So essentially what we're doing is taking a lot of the stress and anxiety out of the decision-making process, saying, hey, these are the recommendations. We're doing it day in, day out. This is what is fit for purpose for that specific organisation, and providing a really tailored approach to our clients. And it's working, which is enabling our business to grow. We've doubled in size over the last 12 months. Don't think we'll quite double in the next 12 months, but hopefully another sort of 20 or 30% growth for the next financial year.
That's fantastic. And look, I can really relate to that concept of taking the stress and anxiety out of the process, having been through it myself. And look, in some ways, it's a fantastic process to go through because you're actually you're part of creating something. But given the number of different businesses that need to become involved at different times, that having the one-stop shop, certainly I can see where that fits in. So
100%. We've kind of found, I think, our place in the market. We're not going to be for everyone. For example, if Commonwealth Bank came to us and said, hey, come and do our 50,000 square metre office, they've got 200 internal staff that do everything that we do, and we'd be stepping on a lot of internal toes by doing that.
Sure.
Our place really sits in that sort of 30 to 500 staff per location. Find that typically those organisations are able to make a decision a lot easier without impacting their whole workforce and whatnot. So that's really sort of the space that we're playing in. We've now expanded across Australia, so we've set up an office in Sydney and in Perth. On the hunt for some people in Melbourne as well. So hopefully try and kick something off in Melbourne next year. Things are going quite well.
No, that's really good to hear, Mel. So you mentioned that you've had great growth year on year from last year in terms of doubling, and you can see that slowing down a little bit into the next year, and that's possibly part of that as we get bigger, the scale. You're not going to get the same sort of double-digit compound annual growth rate year on year potentially, but there's also, fair to say, quite a little bit of uncertainty. That's probably the understatement of the century that's out there just at the moment. I think the term is we live in VUCA times, and what do you see, like both in the context of your business, but another thing that you and I have in common is a love for our city, for Brisbane, and the future we've got is amazing right now, and we kind of look forward. But what do you see as some of the challenges, both from a business perspective and probably from an economic perspective through your lens, in that we see in our own community and environment?
There's literally no end of problems, but like all problems, they need solving, which is, I guess where we try and come in and play our part. I've got a YouTube channel. It's called Talking Tactics with Mel Pikos. I talk a lot about these things, actually the first video I did was about the Olympics coming to Brisbane. Started that channel almost 4 years ago now. It's sitting at around about 31,000 subscribers. I think so far this year we've had something like 150,000 watch hours. So it has grown quite exponentially, but it's also expanded to my interest in politics, defence, national security. So I guess depending on what lens, I'd say from a Queensland level, what are some of the issues? I'd say the biggest challenge would be the CFMEU and the exorbitant price pressure they are putting on construction. For a multi-res apartment project, it's upwards of about 30% price premium that you're paying effectively for the CFMEU. I think the Crucifulli administration is doing a great job of trying to dismantle some of the operations, probably not being fully supported by the federal government though, who is of course protecting the CFMEU. That's of course going to mean that more money is required to build things like major infrastructure projects.
And we've got a few of those on the agenda right now.
There's a huge pipeline. I think last I checked it was something like in excess of $80 billion in the next 5 years, but I suspect the budget being released today will we'll
Yes.
talk about some of those problems.
Yeah.
And then I guess in terms of the other sort of passion project of mine is talking about defence, and quite simply, we're not spending enough. We're spending around about 2% of GDP at the moment. If you look at someone like Germany, who has been in that slumber state for a very long time, they're increasing their defence spending to 5% of GDP. I think we should be using defence as a pillar of our economy to help expand business. The US has called for us to increase spending to 3.5%. I don't think that we could reliably defend ourselves. We're a major exporter of energy. We need to be protecting these assets, and we're just not doing it at the moment. We would would be a damsel in distress. We would need the US to come and save us,
100%.
Which is, as a proud Australian, I'd like to think that we should at least be punching above our weight, not punching below it. And I feel like the administration at the moment is taking a bit of a weak approach to protecting our sovereignty.
And I mean, the geopolitical environment at the moment, just in the last week, sort of demonstrates just how important it is to have, adequate resources at your disposal as well.
100%.
So, understand entirely. So if we just flip so there's definitely challenges, and I appreciate you sharing those with me. But in terms of the corollary of a challenge is opportunity, and they say every cloud has a silver lining, and I firmly believe in that. We've got this amazing opportunity runway to 2032, and importantly, I think it's not 2032; it's actually beyond 2032. And one of the things that I understood, or have got to understand, was that it was the Council of Mayors, I think, that were very instrumental in putting together the bid for the Brisbane Olympics.
Yes, yeah.
And the reason that they put that together was not so much to say, hey, look at us, we've got the Olympic Games, but to force governments to actually invest and spend on infrastructure needed for the future of Brisbane and southeast Queensland. What do you kind of see as the opportunities in front of us over the next next 7 years, but importantly beyond that? What's that going to look like for our city of Brisbane?
So I think there's a couple of points. The main one I'd probably make is that the good thing about something like the Olympics is it forces 3 layers of government to all work together for a common cause, because there is a deadline. It's not, let's just shuffle some paper and then let the next administration handle the issues. We've now got a clear mandate. The Crisafulli administration came in October last year, and I think in a very short period of time they have been able to get the games back on track, including the new stadium at Victoria Park, which I think is going to be a fantastic piece of infrastructure for our city long term. It's not just going to be for people in Brisbane, it's going to be for all Queenslanders, because we're missing too much economic opportunity when events are going to places like Sydney, they're going to places like Melbourne, and they're completely bypassing Brisbane. A lot of people like to use the Taylor Swift analogy. I'm not the biggest Swift fan, but it annoys me that people are flying from regional Queensland to Melbourne to watch Taylor Swift. They should be coming to Brisbane. And I think that the Victoria Park Stadium is going to allow opportunities like that to flourish. I think from a business perspective, people are always crying out for quality staff. I think we've got to think about it as it's not really just about the jobs. It's creating a place where people want to live, people want to migrate to, and it's about getting those settings right, because business will flourish off the back of having quality people come into this state and helping it to grow and expand. Something like 3% of the world's population outside of Australia know where Brisbane is. And by the time the Olympics roll around, 90% of the world's population outside of Australia will know where Brisbane is. So to go from 3% to over 90%, I think just presents an immense economic opportunity. If we look at where do people come to Queensland, it's predominantly interstate Australians. We're stealing people from Sydney and Melbourne. And in Sydney and Melbourne get all the international migration, and then of course that props up their numbers. Brisbane doesn't see too much international migration, and I think that's going to flip on its head because people have now heard of Brisbane, and I think there's going to be a huge influx, even greater than what we've seen as a result of the Olympics, that coming in here. It'll allow businesses like ours to, of course, recruit a lot of high quality staff and, of course, expand the economy here. So I think really the Olympics is more about exposure. It's not just about a 2 or 3 week event.
For sure.
It's, I would say, about showcasing the best of what Queensland has to offer and then turbocharging our economy off the back of that.
Yeah, absolutely. Couldn't agree more, Mel. And that's a fantastic and a very positive way to kind of view what we've got in front of us. I think, I wouldn't be anywhere else at the moment. I think the next few years will be amazing for all of us. Mel, thank you so much for sharing your insights with me this morning. Thank you all for tuning in again. I'm sure you got something out of that discussion from Mel. Thanks for joining, and we'll see you next time.
Thanks, Steve.